The Great Emu War sounds like satire, but it's a very real and very odd chapter of Australian history. It took place in late 1932, shortly after the Great Depression. At the time, many Australian soldiers who had fought in World War I had returned to civilian life, often taking up farming in rural Western Australia. Unfortunately, they faced an unexpected enemy. Not a foreign army, but emus, the large flightless birds native to the country. That year, Western Australia experienced a serious agricultural problem. Emus migrate inland and toward the coast during breeding season, and in 1932, about 20,000 of them descended on farmland in the Campion district. They trampled fences, destroyed crops, and made life extremely difficult for struggling farmers. The government had already been providing soldiers-turned-farmers with subsidies, but the emu's destruction threatened to wipe out livelihoods entirely. Farmers petitioned the government for help. Because many of these farmers were former soldiers, they still had military contacts. And rather than asking for just traps or better fencing, they requested military assistance with guns. The Minister of Defense at the time, Sir George Pearce, agreed to deploy soldiers armed with Lewis machine guns. However, this was not an official war declaration. It was framed as a pest control operation, albeit one using military personnel and equipment. In November 1932, Major G.P.W. Meredith and two soldiers were sent to the region with 2 Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The plan seemed simple. The birds gathered in large numbers, so the soldiers would mow them down in bursts and thin the population. But as it turned out, emus are remarkably fast, hard to herd, and frustratingly unpredictable. The first attempt began on November 2nd near Campion. The soldiers spotted about 50 emus and set up an ambush. Unfortunately, the birds scattered into smaller groups as soon as the first shots were fired, making it nearly impossible to hit many at once. In addition, the machine guns jammed in the dusty conditions, and the emus' sheer speed, up to 50 km/h, meant they quickly outran the soldiers' fire. A few days later, the team tried a new tactic, mounting one of the guns on a truck. In theory, this allowed them to chase the emus and fire on the move. In practice, it was a disaster. The uneven terrain made aiming nearly impossible, and the birds still outpaced the truck in many situations. The operation quickly became a source of local amusement, with farmers joking about the invincible emu army. By mid-November, it was clear things were going badly. Meredith's team had fired thousands of rounds but killed only a fraction of the bird population. Estimates range from 200 to 500. The war was paused temporarily, but the emus kept coming, undeterred and apparently quite